Hello, it's Marla at Twinstrology. Welcome back. Today is May 5th, 2020, and I'm here to talk with you today about a big shift that's happening. And that is the North Node is moving into the sign of Gemini, and the South Node is moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And the nodal axis moves backwards. So the North Node has been in the sign of Cancer, the South Node in the sign of Capricorn. And that's been setting us up for this next stage in our development. So this reading is going to be about the energy of the transit, but if you have your nodes in Gemini or Sagittarius in your natal chart, then hopefully this will help you gain insight into that as well. And to a lesser extent, even if you have your nodes in Virgo or Pisces, as I do, because I'm going to talk a little bit about that energy as well. But yeah, the North Node's been moving through Cancer, and that was allowing us to heal our inner child. That was the major karma that we were dealing with. And with the South Node in Capricorn, we were working through our karma around authority figures, whether that is our mother and father, a teacher, or a government official. Anybody that was trying to assert authority over us. Because that authority then affects our inner child, makes our inner child fearful to express itself. So now we're ready for the next stage in our development. So let's talk a little bit about the energy of Gemini and Sagittarius. Of course, the nodes are always opposite each other. They're on an axis. So Gemini, Sagittarius are opposites. They represent a polarity. The South Node representing where our karma is, our past life energy, our skills and abilities, things that we've gained, things that we've worked hard for. And then the North Node, how we're taking this to a new level, how we're going to re-access this energy to help us move forward in our life purpose. So really what we're trying to do with the nodal axis is balance these polarities of energies. And we don't want to be too far one way or the other. And as we move forward in our ascension process, this is what we're doing. We're balancing every polarity. So when you're looking at your chart, the opposite sign to whatever you're looking at is going to hold the antidote for that energy in order for you to integrate the polarity and bring balance. That goes for like your sun, your moon, everything, not just your nodes. So the energy of Gemini, mutable energy, both Gemini and Sag are mutable signs. And I've included Virgo and Pisces as well because they make up the mutable cross. And the mutable energies are very changeable energies. They're energies that go with the flow of things. Gemini is the first of the mutable signs, and it rules our third house. And Gemini has to do with language, communication. In Gemini, we learn how to label things in our development. And in the process of labeling things, we're therefore able to communicate things. And then through the communication, whether that's, verbal communication with others, or whether that's like written communication, we expand our knowledge base. We learn more and more. And Gemini is a sign ruled by Mercury that wants to know everything. Gemini is curious, and it represents duality. The twins represents duality because Gemini sees everything. It sees the opposite factors, and it doesn't necessarily judge, which is better. It just takes in all the information. Communicating is very central to the Gemini energy, being social. I like to think of the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius as the axis of education or the axis of learning. And I think of Gemini as primary school or elementary school. And that's where we go and we learn a little bit of everything. We learn math, we learn all different types of science, we read all different types of books. We're exposed to a lot of different things. And then in Sagittarius, that's like we go to university and we begin to focus our knowledge into one area. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll come back to Sag in a minute. So Gemini is gaining all this knowledge. And so communication, being social, and truth, very important to the energy of Gemini. When we're looking at the mutable signs, they're basically ruled by two planets, Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. Now, yes, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, but Jupiter is also very connected to Pisces. So the second mutable sign is Virgo. And in Virgo, we take the information that we've learned in Gemini, and then we begin to discern the information. So like I said, Gemini just gathers it. And in Virgo, we bring in that energy and we learn what is useful to us. I mean, think about if we never discerned anything, all the knowledge that would be swimming aimlessly in our head. Virgo is critical analysis. I need this, I don't need that. I need this, I don't need that. And so we whittle down our information. Next arm of that cross is Sagittarius. And in Sagittarius, we take all that information and we develop a framework of philosophy, a framework that kind of informs our life, that becomes our creed, the rules that we live by, how we view the world. It rules philosophy, religion. It has a lot of connection to politics as well. Because these are the things that, as a society, these are the frameworks of our beliefs. And then we take that framework and we live our life according to that framework. Sagittarius is also a sign that wants to gather knowledge, that wants to know things, that wants to expand, right? It's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is expansion. It wants freedom. It doesn't want any kind of limitations put on it. And then we move into the energy of Pisces, which is the final leg of the mutable cross. And where I said, we build this framework of philosophy or religion that becomes our faith, in Pisces we have our own connection, our own spiritual connection with Source that also informs our faith. So when we're looking at Gemini and Sagittarius here with the nodes, what we're looking at is our karma. Our karma has a collective and how we need to heal certain aspects of this karma. So we're seeing this very strongly, of course, because the duality between belief systems, between people, is so strong right now. And that's the Sagittarian energy, right? Where the South Node is. When we look at the karma that we develop with the South Node in Sagittarius, we're looking at a belief system that becomes too limiting for us, and it no longer allows us to expand. It no longer allows us to see truth. We can see Sagittarius has our perceptions, our programming. So we're needing to delve into our own Sagittarian energy, both as a collective and as individuals. Of course, our individual karma informs the collective karma. So one of the things that happens when we have South Node in Sagittarius is due to some kind of past life trauma, we've developed a belief structure, a framework of identification that we've become stuck in. And it stops us from seeing any other point of view. For many light workers, you have been persecuted in past lives over and over again for your beliefs. And there's only so many times that we can come here and be persecuted before that really starts impacting who we are. And we start saying, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. I better find some beliefs that are more mainstream, that I'm not going to be judged for, that I'm not going to be persecuted for. Many light workers have taken on belief systems of the big three religions due to these many lifetimes of persecution. Of course, we all need to learn about those religions as well as part of our soul development. But that's just one way that we become too entrenched in our belief systems. And there's also philosophies and things like that that also entrench us in our belief systems. Even science, in its way, entrenches us in certain belief systems. If that is your philosophy, your personal viewpoint, if you're looking for scientific explanations of everything. And then what happens is we develop this over-reliance on the belief system. Another way that this plays out is in a past life, we experience some major trauma, and in order to cope with that trauma, we need to develop a certain framework that helps us deal with that. Again, I'll just use Christianity as an example. I'm not trying to single out Christianity or anything like that, but when we think about having a loss of faith due to some major tragedy, then we're going to look towards a new system to help us deal with that. So maybe for many people, Christianity fit that bill. And so there was a lot of entrenchment for souls into that religion due to the trauma. Also, there's times where we experience a level of trauma that shows us that our belief system is not accurate. That's when we get caught up in an illusion of something. We believe the world to be one way, and then we find out that the world is not that way, and we fall into disillusionment. And then we lose our faith and we become unanchored. We don't have any faith to hold on to, and we begin to drift aimlessly as a soul. So those are some of the ways that we create the Sagittarian karma. Now, we're all going to have issues like that within ourselves. And it's time that we're willing to look at it. If we're too focused, too attached to certain belief systems or programs, then, we become self-righteous. We don't see other people's points of view. We shut off. And that can be one of the negative things about having the South Node in Sagittarius. Sagittarius, as I said, is a sign that wants freedom. It wants expansion. So you might be wondering, well, how do we then get stuck in a framework of beliefs when we want expansion? Well, there's a little catch there with Sagittarius. They want freedom so badly that they feel like other people are going to try to impose their beliefs and their will and their programming on them. And they do not want that. They do not want other people's limitations. But what happens is, as I said, they switch off. They don't listen to the other person. And that does a disservice to all of us when we're not listening to each other, when we're not listening to each other's points of view, and then therefore we're not communicating. How can we find balance if we're basically putting up walls between each other? Now, I feel that right now in the energy, with this timeline split that's happening now, in a way, we're having to do this because we're having to release people that aren't on our vibration necessarily. But I think it's important to realize that as we move through this Gemini energy and finding this balance, that we need to come back to this. And we need to revisit the idea of communicating and listening to each other. But right now, duality is at such an extent that no one can listen to anyone else. Or I won't say no one, but there's many people that they've just clicked off to anything that does not exactly fit their belief systems. And if we go back and think about the karma, it kind of makes sense, right? Because I said that there can be a traumatic experience that entrenches us more into our belief system as a way of dealing with it. And so this virus, this COVID-19 virus, you're seeing people become more entrenched in the 3D reality because they can't deal with the fact that if the things that they believed were not right, then their whole framework of belief would disintegrate. Okay, and this goes for the bigger picture too, and we're talking about the cabal and the dark forces, what people term conspiracy theories. Okay, and conspiracy theories are not conspiracy theories. What they are is someone is holding a different opinion than you, but because you cannot open your mind to the possibility that anything outside of your belief system can exist, you make up ways to block that information from entering your mind. Okay, that's putting a block on your ability to expand yourself. So it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just one half of the population is saying, I can't deal with that information, so I'm going to act like it's not there, like it's not true. But we can't stay forever in this notion of duality, because we all know as souls that we're one, and we're meant to come into this sense of oneness. So our growth is learning how to overcome this inability to communicate with other people, to get to the truth, which is Gemini. We need to let go of the need to be right as well, which is another wall that we put up. And again, it's because the human being, the human mind, fears the loss of its framework, because that, it takes away that Pisces energy, our deep sense of faith and our connection. If we lose our framework, we might lose our faith. Of course, this has happened to many of us in other timelines, and we'll be working through how we lost that faith, especially because Neptune is squaring the nodal axis. Neptune's in Pisces, squaring, and that will be at its most intense around January of 2021. And so we're needing to find our faith again and find our direct connection with spirit in order to balance these energies. Right? It's not just the opposite energies that help us balance, but it's the square energies as well. We take all of that because they all work together and they all create a sense of balance. And so that fear of losing our faith, losing control a little bit, or feeling like other people might take us over, makes us resistant to belief systems outside of what we feel is there. When we open up the Gemini energy and we begin seeking solid knowledge, looking for what is truth, truth being one of those hard things because truth is very often subjective, but at least being open to the other side. That's the beauty of the duality of Gemini. If we can just step away from our fears, then we can go into the ideas of the other side, the opposite point of view to us, and we can begin to break down any barriers that we have to our personal soul expansion. And also our expansion has a collective. Sagittarius can be that sign that is, it's very contemplative. When I think of an archetype of Sagittarius, one of the things that comes to mind is that person that travels the world solitarily, seeking knowledge, traveling to different cultures, experiencing different religions, all looking for the meaning of life. But one of the things that happens with that archetype is we become so inward. We communicate inwardly rather than focusing our communication outwardly. So that's something that we need to heal. Searching for answers, searching for truth, reevaluating our faith, reevaluating our morality, trying to find a tolerance between people. Jupiter is going to be in the sign of Aquarius for a lot of this transit. Right now, Jupiter is still in Capricorn. It's going to go briefly into Aquarius, go back into Capricorn, and then later on in the year, go into Aquarius for good. And it will be in Aquarius for the rest of the time. And I'm sorry, because in 2021, it will take another dip it will take a dip into Pisces and then back out again. But I'm bringing this up because Jupiter is the ruler of the South Node energy during this time. And it's going to be doing a lot of reforming in Aquarius as we move into the Aquarian age. And we're trying to find our sense of brotherhood. We're trying to find how we can, as a society, all be individuals, all have our own kind of belief systems, yet share this common truth. Aquarius has a lot to do with humanitarianism and freedom and democracy for that reason. It's the other side that wants to make everybody the same in order to create this brotherhood. But then it stifles our soul's creative expression. It's very important that we allow each of us to express who we are. So how can we do that while still maintaining a society? It's about coming together with a sense of freedom, not imposing one system of beliefs on everybody. And in order to do that, we need to have compassion for each other. We need to see the other person's point of view. We need to not resort to anger and aggression with other people, but allow them to be who they are. Now, how we'll come together as a society is because we'll actually become more and more and more tolerant of our differences to the point where the differences disappear naturally on their own. And it won't be that we have to fight each other. It's through the process of embracing love and unity and individuality that we really are going to heal that disparity, that polarity that we're experiencing now. Now, Mercury moves too fast. It's going to be, it'll be traveling throughout the zodiac. But, the retrogrades, of course, Mercury retrogrades are going to be very important as we move through this Gemini energy. One of the things that, I think is important coming up is checking facts. Checking to see, is there any truth behind this, rather than just clicking off and saying, I can't go there, or I won't look at that. We need to become more open as a society, all of us. And like I've said during the reading here, really communication and expanding our learning is going to be a lot of the vehicle for that. I think we're going to find too that we experience some balance between our area and the world area. Gemini represents our neighborhood, and Sagittarius represents, the different cultures, the different countries. That's going to be another area where we balance, different pockets of society have different ways of viewing things, different ways of expression. I mean, even in the United States, we've got 50 states that all view things a little bit differently. And within those regions within the states, there's people there that view things differently, that even speak differently with different accents. You could say the same thing about the United Kingdom. You have all different pockets. People speaking with different accents, doing things a little bit differently. We can say that about every country. So again, it's accepting that we have these differences, but understanding underneath that we all share the same humanness at its core, and that it's okay for us to express ourselves in these little bit different ways. It doesn't make us different from each other. Another way I think we're going to experience change during this transit has to be with the media. Gemini rules writing and speaking, of course, and Sagittarius rules publishing. We need a media that is truthful. Most of the stuff that is coming out of the media these days are basically opinion pieces. They're too far into the Sagittarian energy. They're too far connected to belief systems and dogmas and agendas that they do not deliver the truth to its citizens. And to be a free society, we need to have news and reporting that's accurate and honest, especially in this day of where we're globally connected and we can get news about what is happening around the world immediately. But I think most people are catching on to the media, and that it's all based on opinions and agendas of a select few people. And we'll be forcing change to happen in that area to make reporters report more honestly, at least more balanced. If you're going to have opinion pieces, let's at least express the opposite opinion. But that's not allowed, and we're seeing that very strongly right now with the extreme censorship that's going on. And censorship has no role in a Gemini North Node energy. Remember, Gemini is duality. Gemini wants to take in both sides. If it's only getting one side of the information, that creates a major imbalance. And that Gemini energy is going to work and work and work to get to the other side and to try and seek out what the truth is. So, as I said a little while ago, one of the difficulties here is that truth often is subjective, or it's an abstract thing. So how can we put that truth into practice? Again, we need to understand the people that have an opposing opinion. We need to understand why it is they feel that way. And if we can come together to express these things, well, here's how I see it, and here's how you see it. How can we work together to get to an understanding of truth together? It is one way of working through that. But as I said, it takes being open, it takes listening, it takes asking questions. It takes letting go of your personal ethics or morality for a moment and allowing someone else to share something that maybe you don't understand or you're not feeling. With feeling, let's get into another aspect of this. Sagittarius has a lot to do with intuition. It's our gut instincts. We build our philosophical code. We navigate our life through that. And we do that trusting our instincts. But with the way that society has been controlled through the patriarchy, a lot of us have lost touch with our intuition. We become too mentally focused. In a lot of ways, that's where we've become too dependent on the Gemini energy. And we're so focused on facts and we're so focused on materialism, and we want everything to be about, what is solid, what is there. But life isn't like that. And certainly faith is not like that. Faith, by its very definition, requires us to trust in something that is beyond the material world, beyond something that we can see and feel. And that's one of the beautiful things about Sagittarius, that we're all going to be allowing ourselves to open up more to, trusting in ourselves. But for some of us, we need to shift out of these walls, because those walls limit our ability to intuit things for ourselves. And this focus on the materiality. Again, we're bringing the Pisces energy of that. And the energy of our own connection to faith, our own connection to source, whatever that is for us, that allows us to have faith. The energy of Virgo has definitely played into that as well, as far as creating limits, being too analytical. But we use that Virgo energy to now ground, to take our truth, our framework of beliefs, and to ground that into something real, which is our mission, our purpose. We can't go forward with that mission and purpose unless we're able to speak to what we believe in and our faith, but do it in a way that's open and not closed-minded. So, just to mention that Neptune square once again, and finding, it's going to be very important to find that balance with our faith, and to inform all of this energy through our personal experience to the divine. Now, Pisces as well represents the collective energies, that sense of deep oneness, that empathy that we have with other people. And that's one of the beauties of Neptune, is lowering our barriers and allowing ourselves to connect. Of course, we have to find balance with that empathy, because for many people that are empathic, we've taken on too many belief systems that have been informed by other people through our level of empathy. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're looking at that. And we're trying to find our individuality while still maintaining that collectiveness, while still feeling that oneness. And for some of you, that's, a challenge. It's been a challenge for me this year, and I might come back and do another video on that. But all of this needs to be informed through our belief in source and in unity consciousness. And I feel like we're going to be kind of connecting with what happened when the nodes were in Virgo and Pisces a few years ago. Now, I've included these cards too. This is the Intuit Oracle deck. And I just pulled these cards out for visual image. But we can see that Mercury here is connected to the Magician, and Jupiter connected to the Wheel of Fortune in this deck. And this is important because we're always expanding into our creative abilities to manifest what we want to manifest. And in order to get the most from that energy, we're constantly needing to integrate oppositions and tear down our barriers so that we can expand more and more and more, Otherwise, we're limiting ourselves on what is available to us. And as we go through this timeline shift, and some of us move into the fifth dimensional frequencies, right? That's the ultimate in expansion. So we're going to be getting a lot of this Gemini energy soon. Right now we have Venus in Gemini, and she's getting ready to go retrograde. The 13th of May, Venus is going retrograde. That's going to be big and important for activating us deeper into this Gemini energy. On May 22nd, we have a new moon in Gemini, and that'll be at like the 2nd degree. So I think on the 21st, the sun moves into Gemini, shortly followed by Mercury. And then we're going to be in eclipse season in June, and we have a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So we'll be jumping right in to the Gemini energy. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that gave you some details about how this energy is creating shifts within us. If you would like to know more about your own nodal access, I do astrology readings. My website is twinstrology.com, as well as intuitive readings and quantum healing hypnosis sessions. So thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.